Goed dat je luistert naar een nieuwe aflevering van Paul de Vries vanuit de podcaststudio in Ede met de missie de online automotive beter te maken. Dit doet Paul met de volgende partners met dezelfde missie: Marktplaats, Coldrip, CARMEN Automotive BDC, Vindio, Used Car Controller en tweedehands.be.
En dat we nu gaan kijken naar onze hoofdgast, onze keynote spreker op dit punt, George Nenni. En George Nenni ken ik eigenlijk vanuit de NEDA-conferenties waar we elk jaar heen gaan. Helaas dit jaar niet. Hij is me geïntroduceerd via Brian Pesch. Die hem heel hoog heeft zitten. Het is ook een winnaar van de Lighthouse Award in Amerika bij de AWA Awards. En is gewoon gerespecteerd in Amerika over zijn kennis over Google MyBusiness. En over Google MyBusiness hebben we natuurlijk heel veel gehad. Over de primaire categorieën, dat je natuurlijk goede foto's moet hebben. En allemaal van dat soort zaken. Maar ons doel vandaag is eigenlijk ook een beetje dat we klachten krijgen. En daar bedoel ik eigenlijk van, de content van George moet zo zijn dat we vragen gaan stellen dat we het eigenlijk niet snappen. Die informatie zoek ik eigenlijk, dat we veel dieper in de materie in kunnen gaan dan dat we zeggen, ja, je moet 5 foto's hebben, want dat snapt iedereen wel. En als je Toyota dealer bent, dat je primaire categorie Toyota dealer moet zijn. Dat niveau wil ik eigenlijk een beetje niet, maar ik wil een beetje dieper in dat verhaal. Dus ik hoop met jullie toestemming dat jullie daar ook klaar voor zijn. Mochten er dus vragen zijn, opmerkingen zijn, zet ze alsjeblieft in de stream. Ik pak ze er echt bij om samen met dus George deze vragen te beantwoorden in zaken Google MyBusiness. En George, welcome in our LinkedIn live stream about Google MyBusiness, George.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And for you, and good morning, I think, right?
Yes, both. Good morning in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati. So I want to introduce you, of course, in Dutch. So we already done that. And maybe we can share your PowerPoint in a minute. When I can see that, and we are going to talk about Google MyBusiness, right?
Yes, correct.
And why is that so important?
So Google MyBusiness is so important because 2 reasons. One, 100% of the time someone searches on Google for a dealership name, their Google MyBusiness page pulls up. So of course we knew that. That's very important. But also, anytime that Google thinks that you are looking for a product or a service or a business, then they will show one or multiple Google My Businesses. And today, local SEO or local search engine optimization is all about Google My Business.
Okay. If we can find your deck, because I don't see it anymore in my screen, but...
All right. Should have it here. Can you see my screen?
Yes. And here we are.
There we go.
So it is your floor now.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. And welcome. Thank you for joining. I hope this information is insightful, and I look forward to questions. But let's jump right in. Just some background about me. I've been in the car business since 1993. I started with 2 of my older brothers, did a startup in the early 90s called Dealer Specialties. In the United States, that's all about photography, vehicle merchandising, and data syndication. And we grew that business in the 90s, covered the country and Canada, sold the business to Trader Publishing. In January of 2000, I stayed on with the business. Trader began making acquisitions in CRM, DMS, digital marketing. I was fortunate enough to run digital marketing operations and dealer specialties until 4 years ago when I left to start my consulting business. So I love what I do. I'm in dealerships every day and just love the car business.
Cool.
So let's talk about the challenge that Google My Business really solves. As we said, 100% of the time that you're searching for a product or a business or a service, Google displays the Google My Business listing, either one listing or multiple listings in the local pack. We'll talk about this theme over and over. Winning on Google My Business is not about brand search, but winning on non-branded category searches, and we will show you how to do that, and we'll show you how to measure success. If your competitor is building multiple Google My Businesses, like we can see here for sales and service and body shop, then they will have more real estate and they will increasingly win on non-branded organic search for variable and fixed operations terms. And so we'll show a lot of those searches. And today, when you do fixed ops searches, so if you search for vehicle repair or tires or brake repair, you typically will find independent businesses, service businesses, or you may find the service GMB for a franchise dealer. But in most cases, you will not see a franchise dealer's Google My Business because it is too difficult to optimize one single Google My Business for both sales and for service and the other fixed operations.
Yeah, but George, when I see the Dale Howard Auto Center, I see all the departments.
Yes.
My biggest question is, how do I do that to make that multiple apartments in one Google My Business listing?
Yes.
Or is that something we touched upon later in the presentation?
I don't think this deck talks about it, but certainly, our book, the Car Dealer's Guide to Google My Business, talks about how to do that. But you essentially just create additional Google My Business departments for service, maybe a separate one for parts, and then for body shop. You could also combine service and parts. But once you build those out, and once you help Google understand the difference between service and sales, in other words, when you choose categories, don't choose the same categories. Don't let the categories overlap. Then Google's able to determine the difference in those departments. If they have the same address or a similar address, eventually Google will nest those listings under the main listing. And if not, you can open a support ticket and Google will nest those listings.
Okay, cool.
And so, as we said, here's a search for Longo Toyota in California. Winning on your brand is not very difficult. Google takes care of that for you. Winning is more about non-branded search for fixed operations and other search terms. So here is someone searching for Ford Brake Service, Cleveland, Ohio, and Google decided that there's not one business that matches, but there's multiple, and so they show the local pack. And so I recommend dealers do these searches, daily, weekly. Do these searches a lot and find out where you're ranking, if you're ranking at all. And if you're not ranking in the top 3, then it should be fairly easy to figure out why. Okay, and that's one of the things I love about digital marketing is it's very transparent. If someone's beating you with SEO or beating you on Google My Business, it's very easy to find out why, and then to get a strategy for how you can fight back. So Google's algorithm, of course, decides the winners for that category search. And I'll go back one slide. Whenever you get this local pack and you get an opportunity for more locations, choose that. And if you're in the Google Maps interface, Google will often give you clues as to why, in this case, Ganley Ford West was number 1. And we want to know why. Well, when Google gives you this related to your search, you can get additional clues. And in this case, this dealer had reviews that had keywords in there about brakes and service and those sort of things. Yep. And then in addition, if we add the word best in front of this, if we said best Ford Brake Service Cleveland, it would be a different search results, and Google would more emphasize both the star rating, but also any positive sentiment that is in the review. So if someone said it was great, then those words would be highlighted.
So if you're asking for a review, you can ask the second questions. So please use the word best, for example. Correct.
Okay. And if you have a review that where someone talks about that you were the best, or we loved this place, then Google reads that positive sentiment and they'll display those reviews, and your ranking will improve because the reviews contain that positive sentiment.
So the content with a 5-star, you will ask for more content, for more written words in a good sentiment to get a better position at the end if you make that happen.
Yes, correct. Now we can't write the review for the person, but often if it's someone we know or a friend or a neighbor or a brother-in-law, we could certainly ask them to include some keywords in those reviews, not trying to game the system. Sometimes consumers will say, I don't know how to write a review. What should I include? And then we can give them some ideas. Yeah. Typically, if you bought a new car, what was the year, make, model of the car you bought? If you brought your car in for service, what was the year, make, model of the vehicle for service? And then what service did you get? And then, of course, the positive sentiment, that helps as well.
Yeah.
So Google's algorithm, let's talk about what Google's algorithm is. And it's based on 3 things. A lot of folks already know this. It's based on proximity, relevance, and prominence. So how close is the business to where the person's searching? Is the business relevant for those products? And is the business ranked high? The good news is you don't have to worry about proximity because you can't spoof Google in terms of where you're located.
No.
If I want to rank high, in Amsterdam for a Ford dealer, but I'm based in San Francisco, that's not going to happen.
No.
So really, we just focus on prominence and relevance since we can't change our location. So let's talk about relevance first. When we build a Google My Business, and especially if you build a new one for service or parts or body shop, initially that listing will be ghosted. That listing will not appear in search until you do a few things. One, you need to make sure you choose the proper categories.
Yeah.
And then you also need to make sure that you get at least 20 owner photos and 20 reviews before that Google My Business will start to get activity, will start to appear in search.
So if I understand it correctly, and I will do it in Dutch. We hebben een Google My Business pagina gemaakt voor service voor Toyota ten Haven. Dus Toyota ten Haven heeft een service listing en een sales listing. De service listing is niet te zien omdat wat George nou zegt. Van we hebben geen 20 foto's, we hebben geen 20 reviews. En daarom is hij eigenlijk nog steeds geghost wat George zei. Dus we moeten daar bij ten Haven dus meer foto's plaatsen, meer reviews maken op dat service listingsniveau om hem überhaupt naar boven te krijgen. George.
Yes, thank you. So those are important parts, right? So and often we'll have dealers that will say, George, I created a service Google My Business page, but when I search for my dealership, now the service page will appear. And in most cases, either the dealer has overlapping categories. They've chosen Ford dealer for their Ford sales, but they chose Ford dealer for their Ford service too. You don't want to do that. You want to delineate, keep those separate. And then, of course, drive reviews and owner photos. Okay. So next is prominence. And prominence is all about having a high star rating, but also having lots of reviews. Google also will say it's about your website ranking, and so your website remains important, and then also social media following. But for the most part, when I do these searches, and I do these searches a lot, in general, people with a higher star rating and more reviews will rank the highest.
Okay. Makes sense, right?
Yep. And as we said before, winning is winning this local pack, the 3 local pack search results. All right. Questions and answers. So questions and answers were rolled out on Google My Business 5 years ago or so, but still ignored by many dealers. Anyone can ask and anyone can answer a question, and Google will index. They say they index both the questions and the answers. I've seen the questions pop up in Google search related to search before, but not recently. So I think that Google is not indexing the questions as much as they were 8 months ago, but still important. And so what we recommend to dealers is, of course, when you first look at your questions and answers, make sure that the dealership has answered all the questions. And when you answer from the dealership's perspective, make sure that you are logged in as an admin or a manager in Google My Business. That way it will show the owner, like it does in the screen here. We can see the nice Google logo, the check mark, and then the owner, okay? So we want to make sure we answer all those questions. If we have questions that are no longer relevant, let's say someone said, are you open Christmas Day 2018? We could go in and we could flag that question as being no longer relevant and just clean it up, just to get that out of the system. And Google is pretty responsive. 12 to 36 hours later, that question will be gone.
Okay.
And then once we answer the questions, if someone else has already answered the question and we want our owner question or our owner answer to be higher, we make sure that we like it. So get some employees at the dealership or your wife or whoever to like the answer, your answer, and it will be promoted. And then those other answers will be down below.
Yeah. So you can have your normal facts and questions on your website to make it over here as well.
Yes. So that's the other part. Yes. So we want to don't ask yourself a question, but just get a friend or a brother-in-law or a neighbor to ask you some questions that really speak to your why buy. Yeah. So do you sell certified vehicles? Do you offer pickup and delivery for service, etc.? Yeah. And then you can go in and answer those questions. I wouldn't do them all at once. I might do one or two each week until you build up a number of them. But once you find a question that you really like, if 3 people like the question and like the answer, then that question and answer will appear on the front of your Google My Business page.
Yeah. So you can have your best frequent asked question where you want to make that good answer, to make the most relevant, to make that appear on your Google My Business page on an real estate, an online real estate place where everybody is dreaming of, right?
Yes, correct. And if we looked at a dealership and looked at their organic search keywords or even their paid search keywords, what is the number one keyword for every dealer's website?
The brand name? The
brand name, that's right. And so when we look at that, maybe 50 to 60% of all organic search is going to come from your brand name. 100% of that time, the Google My Business shows. So wouldn't we like to have that question, that why buy question and answer displayed there? So that is a best practice. Yep. All right, inventory listings. So this is Google My Business inventory listings are a relatively new feature in the United States. I think maybe 4 or 5 months old. It's been slowly rolling out. There's some small vendors that offer it. There's also some larger providers, CDK, Dealer Teamwork, Dealer On, that are testing and piloting. The traffic is automatically UTM tagged, so that is nice. Yeah. But as I predicted when this was rolled out, the click volume is very low. And we suspected the click volume was very low because when we look at Google Posts and we look at Google My Business products and we UTM tag those links, they might get 3 or 4 clicks per month.
Steeds meer collega's gebruiken Used Car Controller. Taxeren, calculeren, publiceren of auto's verhandelen met je persoonlijke handelsplatform? Met 1 abonnement geeft Used Car Controller je controle over alle kritische gebruikte autoprocessen. Zo maakt Used Car Controller je tot sterkste in je vak. Vindio is de merkonafhankelijke automotive partner. Vindio is er voor uw klanten en u. Zo kunt u zorgeloos ondernemen en uw rendement verbeteren. Uw online leads opvolgen binnen 30 seconden? Dat kan met Coldrip. Vraag direct een demo aan.
Very small.
Yeah. But when you're seeing how much traffic you are gaining from your website, from the Google My Business, or the amount of phone calls, it's very, that's a lot.
That's very high, yes. Yeah. So we advise dealers to go ahead and get their inventory listed on Google My Business for 2 reasons. One, we want to continually send signals to Google that we're paying attention. Yeah. That we are we're putting posts up there, we're putting questions and answers. We want to make sure there's lots of activity on our page. But more importantly, I believe that this inventory listings will be Google's answer to Facebook Marketplace. So I believe that Google will roll out a paid model for inventory listings to compete better with Facebook Marketplace. I may be wrong, but I think that, and we've seen it already being tested in the United States, and so I think this is the channel that will allow dealers to get their inventory up on some sort of paid model.
It makes sense when you see the vertical and cars is such a great a great vertical to make money on for Google or Facebook, whatever, that they're always trying to find a way to help dealers better and make a buck of it.
Yes, no doubt. And Google paid search, whether Google it will admit it or not, Google paid search is very inefficient, especially around new make model and especially used make model. Google paid search for used does not work. I mean, no. We've measured every major automotive provider for paid search for used. It is always inefficient. Much better off to spend money with the third parties like Car Gurus or Auto Trader or whoever that is. A much more lower cost per VDP, cost per conversion.
Yeah, makes sense, right? But it's the same here. You see some demos about advertising with Google Ads for the used cars, but the cost per VDP view is 10 times to 20 times more than on Marktplaats or AutoTrack or whatever the case will be of the third-party websites here.
Yes, yep, agree. All right, Google reviews. This is repeat for a lot of folks. In the U.S., a lot of dealers are using Podium or Reputation.com. Some use DealerRater. If you just rely on these automated systems for driving reviews, you will only get average results. In the United States, these services will generate maybe 15 to 25 reviews per Google My Business per month, which I think is a low number. And so our best dealers don't rely on these services only, but they engage customers one-on-one to drive reviews. And they use the short name function in Google My Business to accomplish that. So if you're not familiar with the short name, it was rolled out in July 2019, but it allows you to have a short URL where you can text to customers or email to customers, and it makes it easy for them to leave a review.
Okay, so that's the purpose of the short name.
Yes.
You send it out through email or WhatsApp or SMS to ask the client for the review on the Google reviews to make that happen.
Correct.
Okay.
And by doing that, we can gate the reviews, right? So Paul, if you bought a car from me and you're having a great day, you love your new car, we got you in and out in an hour, then I'm going to ask you, hey, Paul, I'm going to go grab some paperwork. Would you mind? I'm going to text you a link to our Google My Business page. Paul, would you mind leaving me a review with my name mentioned in it? And in most cases, if we have a good relationship, you probably do it right there on the spot.
Yeah.
However, if you're irritated and you've been at the dealership for 2 hours and, I am not going to ask you, we're not having that conversation because I can't count. I need you to give me a 5-star, not a 4-star or anything below that. And so you can gate those reviews in that way. Some dealers also use QR codes, so it's easy to create a QR code. In the States, QR codes are getting a lot more adoption, especially during the pandemic, as restaurants' menus were on QR codes. And so that's, yep. And of course, the iPhone now has QR code scanning native in the camera, so that adoption helps also.
Yeah. So, and that you're using that to get the reviews done, to make more visibility for the Google My Business at the end.
Correct.
That's the goal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, we want to outperform. I mean, the winning businesses in Google My Business will be the ones that can drive more 5-star reviews and higher volume. And if a dealership is able to effectively create a process for driving more and more 5-star reviews, then they will be nearly impossible to compete with. So, So why ask personally? Just because you can influence the outcome, of course. You can choose your most happy customers. People want to help other people too, right? So this is what that dialogue looks like. As we said, some are putting QR codes on business cards, and so the salespeople, their QR code takes them to the sales GMB. The service writers, their QR code takes them to the service Google My Business. And we have dealerships that just started rolling this out a couple months ago, and they're able to get over 100 new 5-star reviews in 1 month. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty amazing when you get all hands. I mean, that's F&I, service, greeters. I mean, they create incentive plans as part of their holiday bonus or part of a bonus plan to say, Paul, every month I need 2 reviews that mention your name or something like that. Yep. And then photos obviously help because you can get the customer to upload the customer photo onto the Google My Business, which is always a good thing. And then getting salespeople. What's that?
No, about the pictures. Yes. When I'm helping some dealers with the Google My Business page, in my perspective, with my knowledge of the Google My Business is way not far enough than you have the knowledge. Why is it that some of the pictures are getting more views than the other ones? And how does the algorithm work? Is the picture of the consumer more important for Google than my picture as an owner, or the other way around, or how does that work? Because some pictures I don't want to see as an owner, and still it is way visible for the consumer.
Yes. So studies have shown, and searchengineland.com did a study in early 2020, I think it was January 2020, they did a study and they showed that when you have more than 100 owner photos, you get exponentially more searches, views, and actions on your Google My Business. And we see the same thing. So I like customer photos, but the owner photos seem to be the trigger to get more visibility on your Google My Business page. The algorithm, I think, is basically showing whichever photos are getting the most either views, or if people like the photos, that moves those up in the rank. There's also studies. Whitespark did a study recently that showed that Google will not only see the photo, but will also look for things in the photo that may be relevant to the business. Whitespark, they did a study of, I think, 80,000 Google My Business listings using like an automated system. They also found that when you increase owner photos, your your request for directions to the dealership also increased very largely. So,
okay.
Yep.
So you need 100 pictures of your own as an owner to make more more real estate online with Google My Business.
Yes.
At least 100 pictures.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And it's easy for sales. It can be harder for service. It can be very difficult for parts. Sometimes dealers will combine service and parts into one Google My Business listing, but yes. And then, salespeople, if they want to stand out, having their name mentioned in a Google review is a great way to have someone come in the dealership and ask for you, as well as social media networks. And here's what that looks like in action. So this is in the Cleveland area, Cleveland, Ohio, where I think this is for the Ganley Automotive Group. They're able, all these salespeople have their names mentioned, and I guarantee you that people come in and ask for Brandon or AJ or Pat or whoever's name is mentioned. So it's a great way also for the salespeople to brand themselves.
Yeah.
All right, Google My Business reporting. A lot of dealers aren't yet diving into the reporting in Google My Business, and I think it's pretty powerful if you know the right reports to look at. So it's on the Insights tab, and actually this donut here is one of my favorites. We trend this data out over the last 12 or 24 months, but what this shows is the type of searches and the way that people are finding your dealership. And so this look here would be typical for a franchise dealer. So let's first start with the green direct. The green section is when someone searches for your dealership name specifically. So that might be, Nenni Chevrolet. Okay. Now the gold is where they're searching for my OEM brand, my franchise brand, Chevrolet, but they did not include the word Nenni. So that might
Okay.
be Chevrolet dealer near me, etc.
But can it also be the place where and where it's at?
No, that would all be in the blue. So the blue is going to be where they wouldn't say Chevrolet or they wouldn't say Nenni. That would be non-branded discovery search. So it might be used car dealer Amsterdam. It might be used car dealer near me. But it would not include the franchise brand or the dealer brand.
And if you're an independent, what is the donut then and saying?
That's a great question. The donut probably would have almost zero gold. It would have the green for the name of your independent dealership, and then the blue would be all your non-branded search.
That should be the case.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And when you build these for service or body shop or parts, it will be almost all blue. And that's a great thing, right? That means I'm winning all those non-branded. What is that?
Sorry. So if you are doing parts and you have all blue, then you are on the good path.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep. And if you didn't, then Google was confused. They were pulling up your parts for your branded searches.
Okay.
And then so if you want to go one level deeper than this, you want to go, well, can you show me the queries? Can you show me what people were actually searching for? That data is also available. And people that have been in digital marketing for a number of years, they know that Google is very selfish with the organic search keywords they show you.
Yeah.
There's really only two places to find it. One is in Search Console, the old Google Webmaster Tools, or Google My Business. Otherwise Google doesn't like to show you a lot of the organic search keywords. And so by looking at this list in Google My Business in the Insights menu, you can get a good idea of, does Google understand what this Google My Business listing is for? So when I'm looking at my service listing, I should see oil change, tires, brake repair, all those fixed ops searches instead of my brand.
Is this when you see the numbers, George, is that the normal amount? Or are you saying it is a lot that you are finding your brand, the Jeep, and that you are getting 6,270 free visits on your Google My Business listing?
Yes, you're appearing in search. They may not have looked at your individual listing, but you appeared in the search results, either in the local pack. Yep.
Okay.
And so these are good things to look at to make sure when we talked about feeding Google's knowledge graph, having Google understand what each Google My Business is about, these queries can help you determine if you've been successful.
Okay.
All right, here's another report. This shows the number of searches where you appeared on either Google Search or Google Maps. This is interesting but not really actionable, so I don't spend much time here.
Okay.
During the pandemic, the percentage that were showing up on search became much higher than maps because less people out, driving around searching for businesses. So that was the only interesting thing. And then what actions did they take? Did they visit the website? Did they request directions, or did they call you? And as a reminder, on the website links, make sure you UTM tag the website link on your Google My Business. That accomplishes two goals. One, it allows you to track that traffic separately. And two, if you're using Google Analytics, it makes sure that all that traffic goes into organic search instead of the direct channel. So
if you don't do that, so you are not putting a UTM tag on your URL in the Google My Business backend, then all your traffic from Google My Business you cannot see in your Google Analytics, right?
Yes. Well, it comes into the direct channel, so yes, you don't know, you can't separate it.
So you don't ever see the value of Google My Business, and you're not getting to get much hours into that because you are not seeing the benefit, because it is invisible. So First you start with the Google My Business URL with the UTM tag, then wait for a month, then you are afraid that you are losing so much traffic because now you can see how many traffic you are gaining, and then you're going to optimize your Google My Business.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Directions request. So I really like this report. I don't think very many people pay attention to this. This shows you the zip codes, or the equivalent in Europe, for direction requests to your Google My Business. And so why is this important? Often when we're working with a digital agency, we're deciding what is the geographic territory. Where's the radius? Where are the different radiuses we're going to run our campaigns for? What a great place to start is to look at your Google My Business and find out where people are requesting directions, to find out where is my core market, and then kind of growing out from there. So it's just another nice signal. We use cross-sell reports a lot in the States from Polk or Dominion, but those are also important data points. But I would recommend. I sit through a lot of agency calls, and the dealer just sort of uses their gut or their intuition on this. There's data that exists, so why not use the data? Where are your car buyers coming from? Where are you losing conquest sales? Where are your searches in your Google My Business? Use all those data points and be very thoughtful about carving out your marketing territory.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, here's some resources that you all can use. Paul will have this deck to be able to share with the group, but a link to be able to open a support ticket. Google has recently added chat to that, so if you get lucky enough to get a chat agent on Google My Business, they can solve problems in 5 minutes. It's very, very good.
If you have the chance to have that window open, you have to make your advantage of that one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When I get it, I usually solve like 8 to 10 different dealers. I mean, I don't let them go.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep. And then the redressal complaint form. This is a problem in big markets where lead generation companies will create spammy Google My Business listings all around a dealership to try to drive phone calls, and then we'll sell those leads to the dealership. So if you go to this link and you fill out the redressal complaint form with Google My Business, then they will suspend that listing and hopefully remove it. And so another problem in the States, sometimes people will spam the Google My Business name. So they would put Nenni Chevrolet selling Camaros, Silverado, Cruise, they would all in the name of the business, and unfortunately that works really well. But if you get reported, then having your listing suspended for 2 weeks would not be worth that. So that's not advised. And then finally, the UTM tagging guide that's actually on our website, our Generations Digital website, under resources. There's a lot of free stuff on our resources section, but this will show you exactly how to UTM tag the Google My Business link.
Okay. Cool.
That is it.
George, some questions. The Julia Vinkens ask, "Hi George, at my Google My Business page mention people can see the sentence, people also are looking for. Of course, I would like to see this go. Is this possible for me to adjust or get rid of this?"
Yeah, unfortunately not. And competitor listings at the bottom of the Google My Business. Yeah, there's some good and bad, but yes, it's there's many areas that are not adjustable.
Okay. So another question is the categories. Like you are an Toyota dealership, right?
Yes.
And branded dealer. So your primary category will always be Toyota dealer.
Almost always. So if you're a rural dealer, so in the United States, if you're a dealer in the middle of Iowa, and it's a two-hour drive to the next Ford, if you're a Ford dealer and you have to drive 2 hours to any Ford dealer, then I wouldn't waste the primary category on Ford dealer. Instead, I would make that used car dealer a much more competitive category, because you're going to win Ford dealer no matter what. You don't need to use that slot. So the primary would be used, and then the secondary might be car dealer, and then Ford dealer. In Europe, it's a lot. Car broker is used a lot more than car dealer, or in addition.
And do you have to use the 9 other places as well as a category?
No, you don't have to. And for sales, you probably don't want to because they're not relevant. For fixed operations, for service, I think there's 19 Google My Business categories for service. And so you have to be choosy which 10 you want to use for service.
And which one do you always prefer, always to be there?
Always auto repair would be number 1. And then followed by, all the other ones. So tires, brakes, exhaust, oil change. And then for body shop, it would be, auto body shop. And then maybe a dent repair, maybe paint chip repair. They've added a few new ones for body shop, which makes it nice.
Yeah. And some other thing I saw, sometimes, not every time, I see on my own Google My Business listing I see on my own Google My Business listing a button where I can have a chat or a messaging out as a consumer to my Google My Business listing. And why is that not there all the time? Why is it sometimes yes, sometimes no? And why don't it work on the desktop and only on the mobile phone?
Yes. So good question. Google My Business messaging is only available mobile today.
Yeah.
They did add a feature where on desktop you can message back with the mobile messenger, so you can message back. But best practice in the U.S. is to take one of your chat providers like Gubagoo, CarNow, ActiveEngage. They all have integrations, and probably European chat providers do as well, integrations with Google My Business, where you can use that same chat client for your Google My Business, for your Facebook Messenger, for your website, etc.
Oké, George. Als er geen andere vragen zijn dan die van Juriaan. En Juriaan, uiteraard dankjewel voor jouw input zoals altijd bij een Deze 2-event. Dankjewel daarvoor. George, we were talking about to invite you to a digital car dealer workshop event live here in Holland. We have to set up a date where you are coming over from Cincinnati to speak live here for our audience in Belgium and in Holland to speak about everything about the online automotive. So thank you for that one. I want to thank you for all your time and effort to put this deck on. If there is any questions whatsoever, people can ask you which is the best way to connect with you, through email or through LinkedIn. What is the main focus for you?
Yes, either one, email or LinkedIn works. There's my phone number. You could also SMS or just search for my name, and you'll get our website or the GMB Spy or any of our different properties.
Yeah, maybe at last, GMB Spy. Can you talk about that one?
Sure. So the GMB Spy tool is a free Chrome extension. It allows you to look at your competitors' categories and determine, which categories your competitor is using, and then you can compare those to your own. There's a new version coming out, and so this is top secret, but I'll share it here with the group for the first time. There's a new version coming out, hopefully in a couple weeks, that will now make recommendations. So when you do a search, you can fire up the GMB Spy, and it will tell you of the people that win the local pack, what is the primary category, what is the secondary category, and helps you easily sort of decide your categories based on the people that are winning that search.
So it's very important what you say at the beginning, and that's why we were very successful with our website in the past, nieuwe on SEO, because we were always looking why is he first and we second, and what can we learn. That GMB Spy as a Chrome extension you can see why your competitor is better at Google My Business than you, and you can learn from that one to make all the changes necessary to compete to the other one.
That's correct.
Okay, cool. George, thank you very much for this event. And I hope there will be some connections through LinkedIn and that people can ask you anything about Google My Business. And hopefully we see you soon live here in Holland for our events.
Sounds great. Yep. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad to help anyone who pings me.
Thank you very much.
Dank u wel voor het luisteren naar de Deze Podcast van Paul de Vries met de missie om de online automotive beter te maken. Vond u deze podcast interessant? Abonneer dan meteen via Spotify, Soundcloud of iTunes en deel deze podcast via LinkedIn met uw netwerk. De Deze Podcast van Paul de Vries wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door de volgende partners: Marktplaats, Coldrip, CARMEN Automotive BDC, Vindio, Used Car Controller en tweedehands.be.